Hi, it's Sean A. Corrigan, and I want to talk today about how you can have a terrible day. That doesn't sound like something we normally do in positive psychology, but I think if we can study the enemy, we can actually learn about how we can actually improve our levels of happiness within our life. So if I want to have a terrible, no good, very bad day, it's actually pretty easy. All I have to do is scan for all the things that are going wrong in my life or that I don't like about myself. That is really easy. The reason it's so easy is because the brain is designed evolutionarily to look for threats in your life. It will look for all the problems in your life. If you look at a photograph, you'll look for the flaws and blemishes first. And if you don't see them and you scan for them, then you might like that picture a little bit. So you look for the things that no one looks for in the pictures. You look at certain parts of your body that you don't like. You think about ways in which you failed that no one knows about. You remember embarrassing moments that no one else remembers but you. I know when I'm having a bad day, like if I'm coming home from giving a talk out at a school and the flight is delayed, the flight's delayed 3 hours, I get into a terrible mood pretty quickly because I just want to be home with my kids. So I'll call my wife and I'll be like, you'll never guess what happened. My flight is 3 hours late. This is terrible. There was this person in my talk that the entire time they were going like this. And then someone said something mean after my talk. And then I got this negative comment on social media about how someone doesn't like what I'm doing or thinks I'm out of touch with the world. And I don't get to see my kids. And I'm missing out on spending time with my wife. And I'm living my life wrong. In the midst of all this, what am I doing? I'm cataloging all the deficits in my life. This is a recipe for having a terrible, no good, very bad day. It's very simple because my brain is stuck on a neural track of scanning the world for the negatives in my life. It's called deficit mindset or deficit thinking. The opposite of deficit thinking is a growth mindset. And this is Carol Dweck's incredible research that she did on mindset. And what she looked for is instead of scanning for all the deficits in your life, you start to scan for any areas that not necessarily are good, but where you feel like you're growing, right? So when I'm, scanning for all those negatives, if my wife immediately jumps to, yeah, but you have great kids, you have a great wife, you're coming home to see them, my brain rebels against that and doesn't want to hear that at all. And I come up with a whole list of other negative things that she's forgotten about, trying to show her why I'm justified feeling negative right now. You might be thinking that, right? Like if somebody's trying to push you to become more positive and happy in the midst of the stressful situation of having your kids home, in the midst of the uncertainty in the work in the world, you might be thinking, yeah, but this person doesn't get X, Y, Z, and they've forgotten about A, B, C, and D, right? Very easy for our brain to do that. In fact, I get, this is an aside, but I get a lot of people that think that the smartest people in the world are not the happy ones because it's the dark and negative people that are deep, the ones that are brooding. Those are the deep ones. Turns out seeing the negative in the world and seeing all the terrible parts about it, that's the easiest thing in the world for your brain to do. The most primitive part of your brain, the amygdala, can pick up on negative super easy. The rest of your brain evolved around it. And the most complex part of your brain is the prefrontal cortex, which actually allows you to come up with solutions to the problems you see. It allows you to create happiness. It allows you to cultivate and architect a positive adaptive response to the world. If you're feeling positive, you're in one of the deepest possible situations because you've been able to take all the negative and be able to process how you can still find positive in the midst of that. That's what I want to invite us to do. We've got our list of deficits. I don't need to go through my deficits right now, but you probably have a mental list of all the things you can't do right now. Everything from not getting to go to a restaurant to your income has dropped dramatically, or we don't have any type of financial security, or you may have lost your job, or your kids are home and they're not being taught at school. In the midst of all of those challenges, what we're finding is we don't want to deny those. Those are true, those are accurate, that's one part of reality. But on the other hand, there are also lots of parts of our reality that it's easy to ignore when our brain is in a negative deficit mindset. In a growth mindset, we look for what are the things that are actually growing in my life? What are the things that are good? So if my wife starts to go immediately towards all the positive in my life, I'll rebel against it. But if she acknowledges what I'm feeling, she says, those are true. I'm so sorry. I'm really frustrated you don't get to be home with us. I know you really want to be home. That's really frustrating. It quiets the part of my brain that feels heard, that I'm justified for what I feel. And then she slowly starts to talk about, were all the other flights delayed? No, actually, all the other flights were canceled, but mine's only 3 hours late, so I am still getting home. Or yeah, maybe I could pick up something at the gift store, like the Altoid box that my son loves, and I'll be able to give him a mint when he gets home, and we'll talk about that. So I'm looking forward, anticipating joy in the future. I'm thinking about, this is that time where I really, haven't called that friend that I need to, that I actually get that time. Or maybe if I do my email work right now, I'm gonna have so much free time at home, I could go swimming with my kids. Whatever it is, my brain is now starting to scan for possibilities of growth. Or instead of just seeing that one negative person in my talk, she starts talking about, did other people like the talk? Well, yeah, actually, a lot of people came up and said that they liked the talk. Or somebody came up and said they really need to hear it that day. And suddenly, my brain is scanning for something different. My brain is actually shifted towards a growth mindset. And in a growth mindset, optimism, happiness, joy, meaning, social connection suddenly became possible as well. So here's what I'd like to invite you to do. Something very simple, but it's been one of the most powerful changes I've done in the midst of this challenge. I have a friend who was a military doctor. His name's Greg McCain. One of the questions he asked all of his patients is he doesn't start with symptoms, right? We could do symptoms right now. Tell me what's going on wrong with your life right now. He starts, before going on the symptoms, he says, what's one part about quarantine that you hope will continue after it's over? What's one part of this time that you hope will continue once this period ends? As soon as you ask that question, you can feel yourself having to switch gears mentally. You're literally switching gears to try and think about something different than all the deficits or the symptoms we're experiencing right now. Then you start to scan. What is one thing that I hope will continue? Well, one of the things I hope to continue is that we've been having dinner every night as a family around the dinner table. Or one thing that I hope will continue is that I've got a deeper relationship with my 2-year-old daughter Zoe than I had ever before, because I'm spending so much time with her. Or we've started the morning every day with our homeschool that we're doing for my 6-year-old. Think of 3 things we're grateful for and doing 1 minute of gratitude out on the front steps. So maybe before he goes to school, we'll think of 3 gratitudes in the car on the way to school and do 1 thing we're grateful for before we get in the car, instead of just rushing out like we normally do. We'll just save 1 minute so that we can sit there and listen to the birds, or we can look for lizards on the hedge, whatever it is he wants to do. As soon as you ask that question, you start to realize, and I can feel it now, you can probably hear it in my voice, I'm calming down. I'm reflecting on the positives within my life. I invite you to think about that question today. Write down 1 to 3 things that you hope will continue after this quarantine's over. I know 2 to 5 to 20 years from now, we're going to look back at this time and wish we had something from this time later. Maybe it's time with our kids when they're young. Even though it's frustrating and overwhelming right now, we're going to actually miss this time. I think we will. We're going to miss not having the workload that we normally have, or we're going to miss the camaraderie of walking around the neighborhood knowing everyone else is in the midst of this challenge as well. Whatever it is that allows you to experience this, what we're looking for is growth patterns. So after you've asked yourself that, here's what I invite you to do. Ask everyone. Ask everyone as they're cataloging all the things that they can't do, or the frustrations, or being sick of being home, or the stresses that they're feeling. At some point be like, I feel like some things have gotten better. I'm in better shape now, or I picked up yoga, I was never doing it. As a family, we're walking every day. I got to know my neighbors, and be like, I feel like there's some things that are good. I mean, what for you, what's something you hope continues after quarantine that, that you hope will continue? As soon as you ask that question, it changes it for other people. And you become this node creating growth mindsets in the people around you. When we do that, you can decrease the negative stress that you feel upon your life and improve the connection and the meaning we feel within our stress. We actually find ways of being grateful easier. It allows us to become more optimistic, and allows us to create patterns that help us to continue to grow after this crisis. So look for those today. What are the things you're growing with? And then start to share them with others. Have a wonderful day.